All right, showing we're live. So I'm just going to check on every platform that I have over here to make sure that we are up and running before we get us started with our Friday updates. Terrific. It looks like we're live. We've got a couple of people that are already tuned in to this video. So without further delay, now we have 30 minutes with two of our wonderfully elected representatives that are here representing Westminster. And so I don't want to take up too much time with introduction, but I am Juliette Abdel, Westminster Chamber of Commerce President and CEO. I want to thank you for taking the time to find this chamber page and this specific video. Excited to have with me today State Representative Shannon Byrd, representing House District 35, and State Senator Dominic Moreno, representing Senate District 21. Now, generally, we have these videos on a daily basis, and the purpose behind them are to inform our all of our businesses, really, not just our membership, on educational components you can take back and implement in your business, or briefings from our city. What is the city doing in wake of COVID? That's with our mayor every Monday. And then Fridays, we conclude it out with elected officials. This has historically been our county, so we featured Adams County and Jefferson County. We've had one webinar with our state Representative Tracy Kraft-Tharp and Senator Winter a little while ago. And what we like to do is really pair up from different parts of the community, and that's why they're a little bit spread out. But we have two amazing ones with us today. I'll have Senator Byrd, or Representative Byrd, get us started. Before I do, I just want to thank Councillor Voles for tuning into our video stream. Councillor DeMont, good morning to you as well. And it looks like we have our Chairman Brian Dice. So we've got a few people that are already watching us. Let's get ready to share some exciting news. And if you can take it away, Shannon.
Great. Well, Juliette, thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully there's no feedback. Well, I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm so grateful to the Westminster Chamber for convening this type of gathering, if you will. It's a great opportunity for people to access real-time, real information. I think staying in touch with people in elected government is more critical now than ever. There are a lot of moving parts. There's a lot going on with the COVID-19 virus and a pretty large state and federal government response. I think there will be a lot of people with a lot of different things to say about a lot of the programs that are being rolled out. But for you to get real data, real-time facts, it will be critical for your families and for your businesses. So I'm thrilled to have the opportunity. I was trying to think as we were preparing for what we would talk about today, what would be most relevant to our small business owners. And I know there have been lots of different aid and assistance programs rolled out. And I thought what I would start with would be the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program, that just actually was signed into law by the president, I believe, this morning. So there is now a second round of PPP loans that have been authorized. The bill was $310 billion. So as you know, the first round of loans that went out, it was a $350 billion loan, or rather availability, and those loans were fully subscribed within 14 days of being made available. So we're now entering in this next round. I know that there are a lot of businesses with applications queued up and ready to go. Colorado lenders have been very aggressive about getting your applications in, and I have some data. I know that there were a lot of hiccups and difficulties that people had with getting their applications in and hearing back. So understand there's been a huge demand for these loans that have increased strain on staff and capacities, but some of those problems are being worked out in real time. We're getting better guidance from the Treasury Department about what these loans should look like. So hopefully this next round of loans will go smoother. But back to some of that data, Colorado's total loans out of that first tranche were $754 million more than we would have expected based upon our state share of small business payroll, or 11% higher than what we would have expected. So notwithstanding, we heard a lot of complaints. People were still getting through, and more of this money was being lent out than we thought. So have faith, know that your lenders are really advocating for you, and keep getting in there, keep trying. If you're having difficulty and if you have questions, please put them in the chat. I come prepared to talk about PPP, and we can get more into the weeds if you've got questions about that. Some other things I wanted to share with you is, well, related to PPP, there's been a lot of press about very large publicly held businesses tapping into these loans. This next round of loans, the Treasury has issued guidance that now to apply, a business has to show that these funds are necessary and that you as a business don't have access to any other sources of funds. So if you're a larger publicly held company, you have access to US capital markets. You don't need the PPP loans, which we know were meant for you, our small businesses. So this is an improvement upon that first tranche. Another important point I wanted to highlight for everybody is that if you are still in need of health insurance for yourself or for any employees, Colorado's Connect for Health has extended its open enrollment period. So you now have until April 30th to apply for health insurance. So I have more information on that if you would like it as well, but take advantage of that. There are, depending upon which part of the state you live in, there are different providers, but they're all ready to sign you up should you need to do this. Regarding unemployment benefits, you know that Monday of this week, self-employed individuals and independent contractors, people who work or participate in what we call the gig economy, they now became able to apply for unemployment insurance. So if you are in need of that, please apply. And you know, with the CARES Act, there's an additional $600 benefit per week that is available to you if you need this type of assistance. Also, through the CARES Act, there's an additional 13 weeks of benefits that you are eligible for. So it's an extended benefit beyond the original 26 weeks. So you can get another 13 weeks, and again, plus $600 a week benefit. Also, if you haven't applied yet, these benefits can be made retroactive back to February 2nd if you can prove eligibility. So make sure you look into that if you need it. And one other thing I'll point out, I don't want to take up too much time, but another thing to let you know is if you have staff on your payroll and they have nothing to do, I'm going to let you know that Growing Home is looking for some great employers. And if you would like to contribute your staff to help them work their food bank, stocking, delivering food, greeting people, of course, using safe social distancing, all of this has been planned. But if you're looking for a way to make sure that you are in compliance, say you got one of those PPP loans and you're trying to figure out a way to keep your people busy so that you can comply with the 75% investment in payroll requirement, you can put these people, give your employees a great opportunity to contribute their time and talent to Growing Home. So I'll stop there and then let Juliet continue.
Thank you, Representative. All amazing points that you touched on. I'm just going to pull up our website real quick, the westminsterchamber.biz/COVID-19 and updates. Here we have a lot of the Connect for Health that Representative Byrd has referenced that's open until the 30th. We also have some information about the funding options that are out there and ways that you can find support if you need it as well. We have a couple of other people that have joined us. It looks like State Representative Tracy Kraft-Tharp is wishing us all a nice good morning. And we have former Mayor Pro Tem Berto Garcia as well, who's thanking Representative Byrd for providing some important updates. I'm sure he will share the same whenever Senator Moreno also comes on here. We have a question from one of our counselors. It's Counselor Voles, and I'll go ahead and post this question now. That way we stay ahead of the curve if we can. No pun intended with that one. But he shares, good morning from his end. Two of my favorite legislatures. We feel the same. Thanks for updating Westminster residents. The question is, will the General Assembly be able to make up days lost in this 120-day session? And I think that's a really good segue for Senator Moreno, who will be touching on budget and some of those topics.
Yeah, well, thank you to the Westminster Chamber for the invitation to share some thoughts with you this morning, and happy to address that question as well as give you a brief overview of what we expect to have to address when we come back into the legislative session. So as many of you know, the Colorado General Assembly took a historic pause in our operations and invoked a rule that had never been utilized before, that basically said that the legislature can take a pause, we can break during a state of emergency. And so when the state of emergency was called, it allowed the legislature to invoke that rule. Now, there was still some outstanding legal questions, though, that we needed answers to. Primarily, in a state of emergency, do you have to count the days of the legislative session consecutively, or can you count them as separate working days during the period of an emergency? So we did submit that question to the Colorado Supreme Court, and they did come back and say, you can count those days separately. You do not have to simply adhere to a 120-day consecutive legislative session. So what that meant is that the roughly 50-something days that we have left in this current legislative session, we are able to continue to meet while there is a state of emergency in effect, and count those days to finish our work separately. And so that's so we have 50-something days left. Obviously, that's not a ton of time in the legislative world. And so we've laid out a preliminary plan for when the legislature comes back. So what that plan looks like is that on May 4th, the Joint Budget Committee will start to meet again to start to revise some of the recommendations for the state budget next year. We were about 98% completed with the state budget when we took a break. So we were almost done, and obviously things have changed dramatically since that time. We are now obviously expecting no new resources to work with in the state budget for next year. And in fact, a severe enough decline in revenue that we are anticipating having to make reductions to our base budget as well. So that's all work that the Joint Budget Committee will have to do when we come back on May 4th. The goal is to make those adjustments to the budget and then to have a finished product available for our colleagues on May 18th. So that is when the rest of the legislature would return to work. And then we would obviously debate the budget that the Joint Budget Committee has put together and make any needed or necessary adjustments at that time. Just to give you an idea of the revenue decline that the state is likely to experience, the last time that we got a revenue and economic forecast was a little over a month ago, and it was just before the stay-at-home orders went into effect. And so obviously things have changed very, very much since that time. And we are anticipating that obviously with the increases in unemployment, the inability for some businesses to operate, that obviously the revenues coming into the state have taken a big hit. That hit that we're expecting, even though we are planning to get final numbers on this on May 12th, maybe not final numbers, but updated numbers on what the impact might be, we're anticipating that is going to be in the billions of dollars. So, over the course of the next 2 to 3 fiscal years, we're expecting probably a revenue loss somewhere around $7 billion. Now, keep in mind that the state's budget, the annual budget each year, is about $33 billion. So that is quite a chunk of change that we're going to have to address. And so we will be working through all of these different reductions and trying to minimize the impact on our constituents as much as possible. Now, one piece that the federal government did try to help with was in the third CARES Act relief package. They did include some resources for state and local governments to respond to the crisis. Colorado's share of that funding was about $2.2 billion. of which the state is getting about $1.7 billion. The rest of the funding is available to large counties with over 500,000 people in population. So actually, there's only 5 counties in Colorado that qualify for that funding. We live in 2 of them. Adams and Jefferson County both qualified, as well as Denver, El Paso, and Arapahoe County. And our local governments are working very quickly and diligently to figure out how to utilize those funds. We did finally get guidance from the federal government that says that largely that money cannot be used to backfill any revenue losses. So we will be balancing a budget that is billions of dollars less than what we expected. And the revenue from the federal government won't actually be able to be utilized to help us plug some of those budget gaps. So really difficult conversations and cuts are unfortunately on the horizon for the General Assembly. And we're trying to figure out what those look like. We are prioritizing human services in this environment. We obviously have a number of folks who are now reliant and depending on the social safety net, whether that's rental assistance or energy assistance or food assistance. A lot of folks are really now drawing upon the state because they're out of work or their hours have been cut back and they need that support. And so we're really prioritizing that to make sure that no reductions or as few reductions as possible come from those program areas so that we can continue to respond to this crisis. So that's just a very quick overview, and I look forward to your questions.
That was perfectly succinct. Thank you. It looks like we have several others that have hopped on. Thane, I see you watching here with us. Lauren Seymour, Vanessa DeMont, and several others. Thank you so much for hopping on to watch this broadcast. We have another question and another comment. So I'll show a couple of comments first. And I missed this one earlier, but it comes from Brian Dice. This is for Representative Byrd. Great to see you on here representing us at the state level after having served city council, so thank you. We also have a question that's over here from Dave DeMont. So Councillor DeMont has asked, with the understanding of the shortfall, which you've just shared, Senator Moreno, we'll see this reflected really in taxes. How do you see the ways the state can help businesses get back on their feet, given that you also are facing these challenges at the state level?
Yeah, it's a great question, and thank you, Councillor DeMott, for that. And it's something that is certainly a priority at the state level. We're trying to figure out what some policy proposals might look like to support businesses during this really difficult time and what that could look like. I expect that when the legislature comes back, we will have a package of policy proposals that we can act on that will provide relief not only to Colorado citizens, but to our businesses, which have obviously really been impacted and are in a challenging environment in this time. We are looking at a lot of state and a lot of local governments are offering kind of their own loans to complement the Paycheck Protection Program at the federal level, and we encourage certainly that to continue. And we're going to try to figure out what more we can do at the state level to also help support our businesses. I think the biggest thing that I've heard is that the importance for consistency in this very uncertain environment for our businesses. And I know folks are really struggling right now because there's now a safer at home order coming from the governor, but there are individual localities who are making their own determinations on what this could look like. I know Jefferson County just issued a continuation of the stay-at-home order this morning. Adams County will likely follow suit. And I do know that a number of these local governments are really communicating with each other to make sure that any requirements are streamlined as possible, and that we do provide that consistent working environment for our businesses so that they know what to expect. Because our businesses want to be compliant. We have to help them with that. We have to make sure that we don't offer contradicting rules or orders. And so we're really looking at how do we provide a level of consistency and certainty for our businesses.
Thank you, Senator. And thank you for touching a little bit on that, on the conflicting messages that we might see. You know, we chatted a little bit before we hopped on, and just kind of we're all three expressing that there's a lot of information that's out there. We've been privy to feedback from various industries. I know just recently we had someone in real estate that was asking, well, if one area is allowing us to be able to do showing, but another doesn't, that's still, creates more of a problem than it does for them to continue to operate. And then you see other counties like Weld that are just going to completely open up on Monday. So there's a little bit of that that's going on. And I think that's cause for confusion. We've got Jason Ganal just hopped on. And again, if you just now started watching the stream, we have with us Representative Shannon Byrd, who represents our northern kind of parts of Westminster and House District 35. And then we have Senator Dominic Moreno. We have a sliver of our area in Senator Moreno's area, but I always love whenever we can include him on things. He represents Senate District 21. If you have questions, be sure that you leave that in our comment section so that we can get to them for you. If you ask the questions later when the replay is available, then we'll still try and get those questions addressed. Just know it won't be as in real time as possible. Shout out to Tara. Thank you for also hopping on and kind of commenting on our video. It looks like Alberto Garcia also mentions, I told you he'd be back to share some good words about Senator Moreno. Westminster is fortunate to have such dedicated, effective leaders fighting our interests. Absolutely, and that has been the case. We had council really approve a $1.5 million grant program. To reiterate what Senator Moreno has shared, individual municipalities have tried to come together with a package. I know that program really closed off within 48 hours, just based off of the need alone and the volume of applications that we've had. Yeah.
So can I just add one thing to what Senator Moreno had discussed? So back to Councilor DeMott's question, really any help that we give at a state level, we will be in our best position after we're able to assess what we're getting fully from the federal government. So there's some work that's being done right now that is assessing where those gaps are. And we see still, even today, with the president just signing in new assistance packages, another PPP round. So there's a committee, and I'm part of this work, that the governor created an economic stabilization council, and I'm participating on the financial services group. And one of our major tasks is to assess what has the federal government done for Colorado's businesses? What are those gaps? And then once we've been able to do an accurate assessment there, that really informs what our policy decisions and policy recommendations will be. So there's more work to be done. And as you're seeing, all of us are seeing this play out in real time. Things are dynamic. So it's a changing dynamic at all points. One thing I will say, that in light of the state situation and how what kind of partner we can even be with our private sector, a lot of that does depend upon the assistance we will be getting or could be getting from the federal government. I would encourage every citizen in the state of Colorado to be talking with their federal representatives. As you're hearing right now, there's a divergence of opinion about how much assistance should be made to state and local governments from federal assistance dollars. And right now, federal assistance dollars will be critical. Whether this is to the state's ability to meet its pension obligations, contribute funding transportation, which we know that our state already was far behind in those commitments. But we were making progress, notwithstanding. So now, though, everything is pulled back by the billions. So really, for us to be able to shore up our ability to do our work that we've committed to the citizens of Colorado, and then take that next step in being that critical hand up to our business community, we're going to need a strong partnership with the federal government. And this is a key opportunity for all of us as Coloradans to band together and make that message clear to our federal representatives.
Absolutely, yeah. So before we wrap up, and as we continue to get any new viewers or comments or questions, we've heard that you all will start back up on session. There will be cuts likely across the grid. What are some priorities for you individually going into this that you hope to accomplish whenever you reconvene that we can expect?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. So just from a personal perspective, obviously, you know, my work with the Joint Budget Committee means I have to balance a lot of interests, right? And you know, we have a lot of opinions on, you know, maybe where the cuts should come from or what things should be protected. For me personally, K through 12 education really tops that list. We have had historically underfunded K through 12 education, and it's been a real problem at the state level. And more and more K through 12 education is reliant on state dollars and less so on the revenue coming in from their local school districts through property taxes. That's going to be a huge issue that we're going to have to deal with here shortly. The impacts of Gallagher and, you know, the Gallagher Amendment in our state constitution that requires a certain balance between property tax revenues that come from commercial sources versus residential. Obviously, the commercial property market is really suffering under these conditions as well. And so that's going to increase the strain on K through 12 education funding sources. It's going to increase the strain at the state level. I think we have to do everything we can to try to protect K through 12 education. I just want to give a shout out to all the teachers, all the administrators out there, the education support staff, the janitors who are operating in an unprecedented environment and doing an amazing job at adapting, still providing meals for kids that need them, and, you know, sanitizing schools, and our teachers doing distance learning for our kids. So important. They've been amazing at adjusting to this current environment. We should be protecting their funding within the state budget and trying to minimize any impacts that it'll have on K through 12 education.
I think that was, it's almost like you read what we have planned out, Senator Moreno. We have our school districts will start being featured on our Friday series. So next Friday, we actually have Westminster Public Schools, their board chair, Ryan McCoy, and Superintendent Swanson will come on here to share kind of what they've done in response to COVID, how they've adapted. And it's exactly what you said. It's amazing what they've been able to do in such a short period of time to serve the kids and really take care of everybody in getting everything that they need. Representative?
So I'll echo the senator's comments about K through 12 education. We have not recovered from the Great Recession back in 2008. So in terms of our state's commitment to invest in our kids, these are our future leaders, our future workforce, and maintaining whatever we can to protect our investment in these future leaders is going to be critical. Also, though, protecting our small businesses, this is going to be critical as well. We know that in the state of Colorado, our small businesses are our largest source of employment. So we'll want to make sure that we're protecting you. It's the right thing to do, and making sure that we can keep people working, and to the extent that we're able to protect public health while we're dealing with the COVID-19 virus, but then enabling an economy to begin as well. So protecting that source of employment, and also housing will still be a critical issue for me, making sure that during this crisis and as people are getting back on their feet, they're able to keep a roof over their heads. So it's these basic things to make sure that people's lives are not completely upended by this pandemic.
Well, many thanks to you both. If individuals would like to email you directly, can you just share with us the best way that they can do so? I'll do my best to type this out and pull it as.
So my email address is repbird, B-I-R-D, 35 at gmail.com, REPBIRD 35 at gmail.com.
And my email is Moreno, M-O-R-E-N-O, .Dominick, D-O-M-I-N-I-C-K, at gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
And Juliet, mine has 35 in it, also repbird35 at gmail.com.
Try and do stuff in real time.
Perfect.
Yes. We're going to get this right, Representative.
It's okay. I'm thrilled to have be invited to this. Thank you so much. I know our time is drawing to a close, but this is really a great opportunity to connect. And I hope that as you need us, you'll let us know. weigh in on topics. And sometimes we'll have that opportunity to give you that broader perspective of all the things that are impacting the decisions we'll be having to make in these days to come.
Absolutely. And Tina Silver is another small business owner up at the Orchards, thanking you for the information that you've shared. The correct email address for Representative Byrd, repbyrd35@gmail.com. And just to kind of wrap it up, again, we had two of our wonderful representatives, Byrd and Senator Moreno, to share updates on what the state is doing in wake of COVID, some things you might expect whenever session starts, some news from the federal level as far as funding that's recently been signed in, open enrollment that's available until the end of this month, and news that's coming from counties and municipalities on what the stay-at-home looks like if the orders have been extended. Please make sure that you're constantly checking our resources page. We try and pull everything so you're not going to 50 different pages to find out into one. We also are posting on our Twitter actively, on our Instagram. All those are at Westy Chamber as soon as those releases are coming out to let you know what those compliance measures look like. Again, thank you both for taking the time on a Friday morning to spend it with us. Thank you to our guests that have been joining us in this viewing. And I hope to see everyone on Monday with Mayor Atchison to share kind of new things that the city has taken over or is doing in wake of COVID and as it continues to unfold, really. But thank you both. Have a terrific afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.